Good evening, everyone. We are live and we're talking comics even before we're on here talking comics with you.
Mm-hmm.
The way it
We're
is,
also-
isn't it?
This is our last stream of the year, but I am already next year's model.
Yes, we got Paulo Costa model year 23. I'm the same old model year. Nothing new and exciting about me. Except I got this new exciting salmon quarter zip shirt for Christmas from my sister.
There you go.
So
That's always
that's new and
fun.
exciting.
So I went to the comic shop today.
All right.
Picked up some books.
Ah,
I haven't read a thing because, as you know, buying comics and reading comics for me are two different things. But it was more of like I got home not too long ago and I didn't even have time to edit any of my videos to even talk about my day out. Not much
So in
talk about it.
2028, we'll ask you about these comics that you just bought.
yeah.
No, I'll share with you guys when we get to our comic section. I'll share with you guys what I got and why I picked them up.
Ooh, why? No, it's funny. I was thinking about your buying comics as a different hobby than reading comics comment from last week. When I actually I bought a comic on eBay this week. One of my favorite comic book cover. Well, first of all, I have to show you this. Where is it? Whoops, I'm knocking things over, I think. This used to be all the rage. Not quite sure what I knocked over. This used to be all the rage on YouTube. And this is the only time I ever did one. I did one just for a lark in 2017. People would say what their comic buying goals for the year were. Once again, buying comics is a different hobby than reading comics. So I put down some comics. I did this in 2017. I still don't have everything on this list. But one of the things I put down, because I was like, oh, I may as well put down some old stuff that I want that I'll never in a million years buy, but I need a list. I'll put it on the list. And one of the things is Frontline Combat #3, an EC comic. It's got a Harvey Kurtzman cover on it. One of my favorite. Let me see. I think I actually have it. There we go. I actually have it in this EC Archives collection. Let me show it to you. This makes it even weirder. Where's my, there's #2. Where's the cover to #3? One of my favorite covers. I just like it. It's just this cover here where the balloons are saying, wow, look at that artillery, look at that barrage the artillery is laying down. And then the guy's going, artillery my foot. It's the Big Mo, which is the battleship Missouri. I don't know why I like this cover so much, but I do. And it's interesting. This is one of those covers that it's the word balloons that make it. Without the word balloons, you wouldn't know what was going on in the cover. So it's like, people complain. A lot of people don't like word balloons on their covers, but I do, especially like that. The whole concept doesn't work without the word balloons. And it's just sort of a tribute to the battleship Missouri. So I put down, I was like, I may as well put an old one down. So I put down Frontline Combat #3. Like I said, I made this list in 2017. Still haven't I've got some of the, I've got stuff like, what did I get? Rex Mundi Volume 2 #3 I needed. I got that. One issue. It cost me $3. So what I did was I remembered this list. I went to look at it to see what I got on it and what I didn't. And I was like, Frontline Combat #3. Let's see how much a copy costs. Good evening, Tit Goblin.
Happy holidays. Tit Goblin.
So just as a lark, because I haven't looked in years, I'm like, what would it actually cost me to get a copy of Frontline Combat #3? I looked. We're talking for a crappy copy of it, $100. And I was just like, yeah, of course I'm never going to get. But then I noticed there was a gemstone reprint from like the 90s for like $5 plus $5 shipping. Good evening, Sleepy.
Welcome, Sleepy Reader.
So I ended up. I went. You know what? I'll get the gemstone reprint of it just to have the cover on an actual comic book that I like so much. The frontline So it's like, but I bought that not to read it, but buying sometimes, like you said, buying comics is a different hobby than reading comics. So I just
Yeah,
bought it. It hasn't
which
arrived
which
yet, but
which is funny you mentioned a list because last night I was going through a box of paperwork and it's like, okay,
uh-huh.
this needs to be shredded, this needs to be thrown out, and what have you, and what needs to be kept. And I came across a list myself, which probably can't read it because
Yeah,
it's in
we'll make you
paper.
bigger just to see.
All right. And for the life of me, I don't recall why I made this
Spider
list.
Woman #1, She-Hulk #1, he's Spider-Man 135.
Shazam #1, Marvel Spotlight 28, which I marked Moon Knight,
Jimmy
Jimmy
Olsen
Olsen
130.
134, Forever People 1, which I own,
Uh-huh.
X-Men 194 or 184
1
my
through
handwriting.
94, is that? I don't
Maybe 1 through 94 and then 200 and then Spider-Man Annual #1.
know.
And for the life of me, I don't know why I wrote it. I don't know if I wrote it in the sense of these are books I need, but I doubt it because I have She-Hulk #1. I have Spider-Woman #1. Amazing Spider-Man 135. I believe that's the first appearance of the Buggy. No, the Buggy is 130. I just got this for
Look at
Christmas from
that.
my brother.
Huh.
So 135. Shazam #1, I know I have. For I have the power of Shazam. Marvel Spotlight 28. Again, first appearance of Moon Knight. I don't know if this was a list of things that I know I have. Maybe I'll resell them. Or things I want to track down. But again, it was like, here's just a note with nothing else on it. And I
Just a
kept
list of
it.
comics.
Just a list of comics. And it's like, all right, here's a list of books.
Why
But
did
I
I write
know
this list?
I own at least half of them already. Or maybe it's something in the vein of what maybe I was going through something deciding, do I have it that I want to sell it or do I need to get a better copy? I don't know. But it was funny that you pulled out your list to show me that. It's like, that is pretty funny. I
I
haven't made an official list of what I
yeah.
wanted in quite some time because in the back of my head, it's like, oh, I want every Amazing Spider-Man. And over the years, every now and then, I'll get into an eBay kind of watch to see what's available.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to focus on one book
Yeah.
and then track that down, watch the numbers go up and down or what have you. When I buy off of eBay, I want basically a reader's copy.
Right.
So I could say I own this. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be gem mint. It doesn't have to be any of those things. I rarely buy slab books unless I see one and go, okay, that's a way for me to have that copy. I'll get it. I haven't run into that yet.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it's like I would keep that kind of list. And then eventually I went digital. So I have the list on my phone for Amazing Spider-Man. Nothing else. I haven't even branched out to look for books where Spider-Man appears in. Because that's a whole nother ball
List.
of wax. A whole other list you could get into. And there's a YouTuber who's doing his. It's like every Amazing Spider-Man ever.
Mm-hmm.
And he does like a brief reading about the book and the issue and stuff like that. I believe he's doing it in chronological order of Spider-Man's appearances, but he's doing it throughout the multiverse, throughout the Marvel universe from at least the 60s at this moment. And I was like, that's interesting because I did, and again, one of those things that it's like, this is what I'm going to do. And eventually there's a list that becomes that. But again, it's funny just to have a list. It's like I have no idea what this list is about.
Yeah. I did a list for 2018.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did that.
I did mine just to make a video, just because.
Yeah,
I would say from about like 2016 to 2018. A bunch of YouTubers were probably now gone. We're making lists every year. At the end of the year, you'd see, this is my comic collecting list for the next year.
For example, I said I wanted to have the Marvel Premiere issues that have the Caleb Hammer story and the Monarch Starstalker story. The thing is, I have the Caleb Hammer story in a Brazilian comic, so I don't actually need the Marvel Premiere.
Right.
And I know there's a Brazilian comic with the Monarch Starstalker, although I know I don't have it, but I know that it exists. But I've read it because a friend of mine had it.
Right.
Then I wanted the Times Square graphic novels by Howard Chaykin, and there was a mini series published by DC around 1990 or 1991 called Skull and Bones by Ed Hannigan.
Okay.
And I remember seeing that seeing that in the Green Comics database. And this looks interesting. I'd like to have this, but it's not like I'm looking for it.
Somewhere I have an Ed Hannigan. What is it called? A book that they printed of his Marvel stuff to raise money for him. I can't even remember what. All of a sudden, I can't remember what that type of book is called. Not a tribute book, but it was of a lot of his work and sketch. A nice book from the 80s. I think Ed Hannigan was in the production department, but he also drew a lot of stuff. He was a good designer and did nicely designed covers. He wasn't the best draftsman, but he had some good concepts and designs. Some nice stuff. But I just noticed another book ties into my list here because I actually got a toy for Christmas, and it's. Anybody know who that is?
Marvel Legends Despair.
Yeah, I just happened to be looking on Amazon and saw him for about like $17, I think it was, and I was like, ooh, and on my list here that I got is Marvel Team Up number 68, which is and I ended up getting it, and here is, and this is one of, remember those ones I showed a few weeks ago of my first issues that I went back and bought in mint condition, like the first issue of whatever book I bought. This is one of my favorite Marvel team ups. I don't know if you've ever read this one. Really good story, but this one really made me like Spider-Man. Like seemed like a vulnerable young guy in this issue, which made me really like it. And it's the first appearance of Despair. It's a done in one. But my copy's pretty beat up. This is a 4.0. It's the copy I've had since I was a kid. So I put it on the list that I wanted to get a mint condition copy of it. And one day, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I was at my local comic shop, and for $4, ended up getting this copy of it. But what annoyed me about this copy is it's a Mark Jewelers variant. Do you know what those are?
I do.
They have the Mark Jewelers. No, they often go for more money than the regular variant because they're, I think they were sold on military bases.
Military bases had the, I couldn't say the license, but in order to get to be sold on a military base, I think they went through Mark Jewelers somehow, and that's why they were able to stick their ad in it. I don't know exactly why or how they were able to do that, but it seemed like they were able to get it approved into the ability to sell it at those places.
But the Mark I don't know if you've ever seen a Mark Jewelers book. I hadn't before I got this, but the ad is on stiff paper. So it actually makes it harder to read the book or thumb through it because there's like a stiff cover stock in the middle centerfold of the book. It's really annoying. But of course, no one reads them. People just collect them. If you're going to read them, you're going to read the regular variant rather than spend the extra money on the Mark Jewelers variant.
Right.
But I went and got like this. This was on the list. And it's funny, I was just looking to see how much this comic. I was just, once again, I was looking for Frontline Combat. I'm like, wonder how much a mint condition of it on. You're gonna pay anywhere from $30 to $60 on eBay for a mint condition first Despair. Now it was just like, whoa, that went up in price. Despair, maybe because Man-Thing is entered the MCU. Despair prices went up.
Possibly. I think that's also an early John Byrne drawing of Spider-Man.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not positive, but I don't know if that's his first time drawing Spider-Man,
I don't
but I
know.
know
I
it's
don't.
one of the early ones that made. When I read that book, I remember thinking, "Wow, John Byrne should be drawing Spider-Man." But the thing is like John Byrne from back then should have been
Yeah.
drawing Spider-Man.
He did that
Not-
one issue of Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, that was really good.
Mhm.
I don't know what the story went, but as a reader, I remember I was buying Spectacular Spider-Man, and John Byrne was coming on, and I was like, "Oh, cool, John!" I don't know if I bought it because he was coming on, or I was buying it regularly. I can't remember at that point. But John Byrne was going to be doing Spider-Man. He did this one issue of Spider-Man where, I think it even said in it, "Oh, look, John Byrne's taking over Spectacular Spider-Man," but then he only did that. He was gone by the next issue with no explanation. It was like this one issue run. But it was a really nicely done issue. I should get my phone out of here. Don't need that ringing behind me if it rings. I'll put it in the other room. But yeah, really one of my favorite issues. So I just happened, like I said, just tooling around Amazon, I saw a Despair. So I was like, you know what? I don't even remember him being black and white. I wonder what color. I don't even know what color he was in here. Was he in black and white?
I want to say he was like a purplish color, but that's trying to go on memory. Having looking in that book at it in like 20, 30 years.
Let's see. Oh, he's got. I guess he is black and white, but they're using light blue to shade his white.
Okay,
that was, which was normal at the time.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely was normal.
That's why.
I think I've seen some green shading.
And there's a lot. He looks like he's light blue in panels because they're using a lot of light blue to shade him.
And there's that classic John Byrne uppercut punch that he's used on so many covers.
Oh yeah, there he is. When he enters, he looks blue.
Yeah.
But it's really white, I guess. They're just using the light blues to shade it. Like, how they always use blue to shade black. That's what they're doing in his bottom half, too. So that's what it is. Well, like I said, one of my favorite Marvel team-ups from my youth. I think it holds up well, too. It's a good done-in-one Spider-Man story.
Right.
And then, of course, I was like, oh, I've got a bunch of Spider-Man figures that I got from when I worked in the Marvel offices. So I was like, ooh, I wonder, since I got, Spider-Man and Despair, I wonder how much a Man-Thing figure would cost.
Yep, that's going to be a pretty penny.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I did the same exact thing. I was looking back and it's like, hey, can I get the actions? I do have a lot of action figures as it is. Can I get the action figures from the first set of comics that I bought where I decided I wanted to collect?
Right.
So it was Marvel Team Up, I think 144 and 145 because I bought those on the same day. I think those are the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But I might be mixing the numbers. Marvel Team Up Spider-Man with Iron Man, and then the other book was Spider-Man and Moon Knight.
Okay.
And Spider-Man is easy to get. I got a Spider-Man that represents them both.
You can get overwhelmed by Spider-Man.
Yes, you definitely can, especially now with the 60th anniversary, and they're making so many of them. Yeah. Iron Man was fairly easy to get at the time because I already had it for my Secret Wars collection, so to speak. But the character Whiplash or Blacklash was the name of the villain with the Spider-Man and Iron Man one. So they haven't made him as an action figure. Another one is Moon Knight is very hard to find because Moon Knight was an exclusive with Walgreens. And the one that I did find, I ended up giving it to my brother for his birthday. Mm-hmm. And it was basically after that, it was like, I'll get one for myself. And the prices on that one was just way too high. Yeah. And I was hoping with the release of the Moon Knight TV series, they would re-release that Moon Knight, and they haven't. And that villain, the villain for there was, I think, the White Dragon. I think the villain was named, and they never made that as an action figure. So it's like, all right, so much for trying to put those together, and I understand it because sometimes so on a whim, I want to do this, and then you see the prices on it. Like on a whim, I wanted to get all the Muck monsters.
Right.
So I went online to look up Man Thing. It's like there's no way I'm dropping that kind of money on Man Thing.
Because Man Thing is also a Build-A-Figure.
Exactly. From a set that was the other problem too is when you make this decision, how long was those characters out for? And
Yeah.
that was for me, that was a Build-A-Figure that happened too many years ago.
Right.
That it's like you can't really find it at a reasonable price.
Right.
So I end up picking up individual parts because I was willing to pay $5 for an arm here, a couple of bucks here for the leg, whatever. And even a buddy of mine had a limb and sent it to me. I even have it as one of my early TikToks.
Right.
It's like, oh, my Man Thing is getting bigger. Clickbait kind of a title. But I still have him missing one leg. Because for some reason, that one part, that making lists, I do have a list of all the parts that I need from the various Marvel Legends Build-A-Figures.
Wow.
And for Man Thing, I need his right leg. But I do not want to pay the price of a figure for the price of a limb.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating just watching how you have hardcore Marvel Legends collectors. You have those collectors that just want to display it in the box, and they're all upset that, or many, not all, many are upset that Hasbro has switched from the clear plastic window to just a solid box now.
Well, that would upset me too if I like to display him in the box.
Yes. So many people are upset with that. And it's Hasbro is saying, well, we're saving the environment from use of plastics, blah, blah, blah. And you sit there, it's like, no, you're really saving the money on the die cuts that you don't have to make. And then the extra plastic, this is having the burden of knowing production stuff. And then it's like, and you're not passing that savings to the fans because they jumped the prices very recently to the point where a lot of fans are stopping.
Yeah.
So you have that double whammy of you got people who wants to display them in the box. They don't want to display a rendered image.
No.
And the price point went up way too high. And the thing is that on their boxes, chances are this is not the figure. Chances are this is a CGI rendering of what the figure is going to look like.
So it's not even the finished figure.
So it's not even
you're displaying
that you're aware of. And the other problems too is when it is a box like this, people can easily open it and switch it out. What happens is that that also happened with the window boxes, but at least you got to see what was in there.
Right.
So you could see blatantly when people did switch out a figure or a piece or a part like that. So now, if we want to play conspiracy theory and go down the rabbit hole, it means that you have to go, or you have the urgency to go to Hasbro's website and buy it directly from there.
That way it's a good one.
That's way but even then you can't tell because if there was like, let's say the deco was printed correctly, which happens sometimes. It could be a misprint, or whoever at the factory stuck it in the box could have put in the wrong figure. You never know because there's so many different horror stories just on TikTok and YouTube alone of what happens to the action figures. So that's an extra layer of anxiety that we're getting with the new figures in the new year.
Yeah, the man thing. I think I saw the build a figure man thing on eBay was like $100 on up if you wanted to buy the whole figure assembled. I was like, whoa, that's not
Now
an
you
impulse purchase.
it is definitely not. One of the other
Not for
things you
me.
could do is pick up a older man thing because Toy Biz made them.
Yeah,
And that's been an option for people where
they
it's
weren't
like,
particularly
oh,
cheap either.
they weren't. They were not. So, and that's the thing. It's like, what can you possibly get? What can you find? And sometimes you have it where they will put out a character. So, Terrax, Terrax was a Build-A-Figure.
The pressure of figure collecting is too intense.
So Terrax was a Build-A-Figure. Again,
Yep.
an older Build-A-Figure. When I had ordered the Galactus, it's like, again, great ideas come to you in the middle of the night and you have access to eBay.
I want all his heralds.
I want all his heralds. And it got to the point, okay, let me find them. And Terrax was a Build-A-Figure. An older Build-A-Figure that had been hard to find. Because he came out, those were the early Marvel Legends when Hasbro re-released the concept of Build-A-Figures, re-released the concept of doing the Marvel Legends line, because Toy Biz had their own Marvel Legend line. So with Terrax, again, my list, I would look every now and then, and I would find like the left arm was $5. Right
Right.
arm, $5, or what have you. And I was able to get a good portion of his parts for about, I want to say $20. And I got just about everything except for his lower half. So, which is, so you have the chest piece, but then you have his torso piece, the lower half. And for some reason, that by itself is going for the price of well, at that time, last year it was going for a couple of $100. I'm
Whoa.
not paid that much for a piece,
You
especially as
don't
we
want it that much.
exactly. And then what happens? They release this thing, and then all of a sudden a 2-pack comes out, and it's like, well, I'll just get that and just have pieces. And and from what I could tell, this is the same exact figure as the Build-A-Figure.
Wow.
The coloring might be slightly different, but that's basically it. And so, of course, now the price of the Terrax, people are trying to unload theirs on eBay because no one wants it anymore. And
Right.
they were hoarding it for a while because once that was released, or the announcement for that to be released, the value dropped. And now you can find those pieces all over the place. Still pretty expensive. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, I personally love Build-A-Figures. I like putting them together. There's just something about building a toy that for me is a lot of fun. Takes me back to when I worked in the toy shop, and around the holidays, I got to build toys. Like we had these wooden toy. The store that I worked for that was called Quest Toys was an educational toy store. So nothing ran on batteries, and we didn't sell Power Rangers. And boy, did everybody want Power Rangers. So this is back in '95, and so we would make educational toys. We would have to build like the hobby horses and stuff like that. So I felt like Santa in his workshop building. Well, actually, I felt like an elf because I was doing work, building these hobby horses and stuff like that. And ever since then, it's like I like building toys. I like putting together action figures. So the Build-A-Figures are fun, but just way too expensive. And I'm easily can go, I don't want that. I'm walking away from it.
When I got this one, I was like, what's wrong with this? It's broken. The cape was off and wouldn't fit over his head. Turns out you got to pull the head off.
Uh-huh.
Well, I didn't know that. my nephew was there. He's like, you probably got to pull the head off. I'm like, pull the head off? No. I'll break it. Well, sure enough, you got to pull the head off, put the cape on, and then put the head back on. I'm like, what kind of madness is this?
Hey, it makes sense. I mean, we grew up with toys that could easily break apart. Heads were
Yeah.
notorious easily to just snap off.
You're not supposed to pull the limbs off them.
Mhm.
Oh, I have to show you something now. King Spoet's in the house. In the
Welcome.
mail today, showed up as a surprise to me. King Spoet, his new graphic novel, Tales from the Rock and Roll. It's a G.G. Allen graphic novel.
Bunch would love that.
Yeah. I haven't. Yeah, it just showed up today, so I haven't had a chance to read it. It's nice. It's oversized too, and he did me this nice drawing on the back of "This is me" saying, "Hey, this is better than a $3 comic." So thanks, King Spoet. Very nice. I can't wait to read. I love this cover, this old EC Comics motif. That just like always works. Whenever I see someone do this like EC Comics motif, it just always works.
Yeah.
It has never not worked. It's such a good design to begin with.
Exactly. I know I've used it for, I think, a sketchbook cover once, just because it's such a classic look and it tells you everything you need to know right there on the cover. I also
Yeah.
like the logo going down the side that says Terror.
I will enjoy it well. Terror. I think this one says truer, so I guess it's true horror. TRUEOR. Instead of terror. So I guess true horror becomes truer.
Truer horror.
True horror. Looks very nice. Better than a $3 comic.
There you go. Yeah, so I'm looking at, so I got to visit the comic book shop today. Went down to Midtown Comics just to check out what they had. And because again, sometimes I pick up comics, sometimes I don't. But I did go with a purpose. It's like I am going to pick out a couple of things, but I'm going to budget myself to a certain amount, and that's it. And I was taking a look, and I realized there are a lot of comics that I would have bought if I did not go in with a budget in mind, just because of what they had and the amount of covers that they
Wow.
had. So,
hold on, let me get King Spoet's comment in here first. I can't really write, so the only thing I have is my true experiences. I like true experience slice of life comics, so I'm okay with that.
yeah, there is definitely nothing wrong with that.
That's my genre, one of my favorite genres. So how many? So did you want to buy all the alternate covers? I'm just curious.
I did really want. No, I wanted to. I didn't, but let me tell you, I did want to buy it, and mentally it was like, I can get these all. There's no real reason to.
Yeah, that's
I'm not
just
going to.
it.
I'm not going to display them, although they were beautiful artwork. And at the same time, it was like there's just way too many alternate covers, to the point where it's like I see the beauty in them.
Right.
I see as a collector kind of wanting to have them all, but it's like I can't spend that much money.
There's no point to having them all is the problem.
Right, exactly. There's no, in one aspect, there's probably no monetary value because they printed so many covers.
Right.
And especially for a book, I don't even know if it's going to be even good.
Mm-hmm.
So when I picked the books up, the ones that had alternate covers was the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles team up. This is the second. This is the second team up they've done. So it's by IDW and Boom. And so the covers I decided on, I did pick up 2 covers. And I picked the covers that were kind of the best that stands alone.
Right.
To me, I like the Power Rangers standing in the original Ninja Turtles #1 cover.
Right.
And then the other alternate cover is a cover that's basically very Ninja Turtles drawn. with all the
Mhm.
characters on there. The original kind of the rough type of cover. But they had a 5 cover grid um, for each and every book. Let's see if they happen to.
Connecting covers, you mean?
They were all connecting covers, and unfortunately, they do not print all those covers inside the book.
Right.
But they were connecting covers, and I believe there were about 5 of them that
Huh.
connected. There was like 5 of them that connected, and then there were this kind of a green blank cover. So I guess that is the sketch cover.
Right.
And then there was one with one of the turtles holding the helmet because they do all those helmet covers for the Power Rangers as well, and that was tempting. And then there was one cover that had no trade dress on it, and it had I want to say it had a foil look to it, but it was one cut image from um, the main 5 covers that they did. So I counted maybe 7, no, 8 unique covers that I was aware of because I
Yeah.
didn't know if a cover sold out, if one of them was an incentive cover or whatever. And at one time, I would have bought them all, but then I wouldn't have money to buy any other books.
Right. Right.
And they were times where I would go in without a budget. I'm just walking in and I'm just picking everything I liked, and then I put them in a bag and forget all about them. So it's like I don't want to do that. So that's why I decided, you know what, I'm going to get 2 books from these because I love a crossover.
Right.
Sometimes the sillier the better. So I picked this one up and this one up for those covers.
You know,
Now,
you know what is too about all like alternate covers is they're nice. I appreciate them, but to buy them gets expensive and takes up room.
yes,
If every comic I buy all of a sudden costs 5 times the price and takes up 5 times the space, I'm going to be overwhelmed really quickly.
exactly. So you have that, you have the expense. I don't like how much shelf space they're also taking.
Yeah.
And almost everyone's doing multiple covers, so it's not special anymore.
Which is also why now I like to sometimes collect them just digitally. The older
Yeah,
alternate covers. Just find some place where they're all posted and save the JPEGs. That way I can look at them if I want to, but they're not taking up any room and costing anything. Like I did. Which one was it that I really liked? Was it maybe it was Art Adams, like 5 years ago, did these Walking Dead connecting covers. And I was like, oh, those are really cool. I like those. But I wasn't going to pay, I think they were even more expensive than The Walking Dead. I'm like, I don't want to buy 5 covers at $6 a piece and just sit on the shelf. So I ended
right.
up downloading the covers and stitching them together in Photoshop, and that was one big cover if I want to look at it.
So the next book, and again, that type of thing is okay. So Amazing Spider-Man. This is issue
Mhm.
16.
Let's see.
Well, this is the regular, as far as I could tell, this is the regular cover with John Romita Jr. Although
Yep.
I almost bought the alternate cover with that was drawn by Mark Bagley, but it was very similar to this. I think the characters were kind of flipped. But it was one of those things. It's like, okay, so it's issue 16, but then there was another one that had that mentioned alternate cover, but I thought it was the same exact cover, but it was a
Uh-huh.
very similar motif. And then you have also other ones that had different characters on there. And to me, like, if you go to the cover, I kind of wanted to still be Spider-Man on the cover.
Right.
So I decided with this, I'm also just going to pick up the single issue itself, the one that is mostly, for lack of a better term, the regular cover. This is what I would have
Right.
bought if they did not have the if they didn't have the extra, the alternate covers. This is $3.99. And then speaking about multiple covers, I picked up Action Comics 1050.
Oh, that was out. Okay, I didn't
So
even
this
realize.
came out, though I had to dig for this particular cover,
Okay,
because there was a whole bunch.
there was a
bunch of
lot
them.
of covers to that. Huh.
Yes. So with that one, I'm just checking the inside to see if it even gives me a list of the covers. No, I'm not sure. Oh, it has a nice tribute to Kevin Conroy.
Oh, okay.
So it was like, all right, this is the 1050 issue. It has the cover date of 2022, and it's Action Comics #1 recreated by Alex Ross. And it's like, you know what? This is great. I like it. I'm going to pick it up for this, for that particular cover. $7. So that's what, 4 Spawns.
Yeah.
And then Spawn Batman came out,
Oh yeah.
and I looked at them, and they had. I don't know the story. I did not pick it up. I didn't read it, but there was not only Spawn and Batman on the cover. Wonder Woman was on one of the covers. It was Spawn and Wonder Woman, Spawn and Superman. It's like, do those characters appear in the book? It was a bit overwhelming when I looked at it. It's like I don't want to pick up any of them.
Yeah.
So I did it. So Spawn Batman did nothing for me because I just looked at it. It's like, it's just way too many covers, and they were in the position of the store. They were in different places within the DC stuff. But the thing is that the way Midtown put their DCs, it's just in one little corner. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like you go up to it and it's like, is this all DC has? Something just seems off wise, and it's like, but I don't really want to go digging into the books.
I don't want to buy these shady DC comics. What's going on here?
Exactly. And then last, I picked up Frank Miller's Ronin Book 2.
New unit of comic pricing, Spawns.
So I could not find like a regular copy. I know nothing about the new Frank universe. I don't know what they're calling it.
Millerverse?
Maybe it's Millerverse. So I figured I'll pick it up because I did like Ronin. But it's
Why is Dan DiDio's name so big?
He wrote it. Maybe. I don't know.
He must have written it because he's a writer. He's not an artist.
Right.
That's just weird that you held it up and it's like his name is gigantic.
Yeah, there's a certificate on there.
Oh, that's the certificate of authenticity. Oh, that makes more sense then. Okay,
that the comic book shop printed off their home printers,
right.
And we know everything here to be true. I am trusting them.
No one could ever possibly photocopy this again on green paper.
Exactly. So I picked it up basically to give the Millerverse or whatever it's being called a try.
Mm-hmm.
So it's signed on the
Hence
side.
The certificate of authenticity.
And unfortunately, I grabbed it and just put it with the other comic books, and I didn't pay attention. So I did not realize that it was damaged.
Oh, I hate when I realize it's damaged when I get it home.
It's damaged here and damaged there, which was covered by the certificate.
Right.
And on the back, it was covered by the backing board.
Oh, that's annoying.
I did not pay attention.
Frank Miller wrote Ronin 2. Okay.
For I'm guessing this is Frank Miller's Presents?
Yeah. Frank Miller's Presents. Here's a damaged autograph book. Thanks a lot.
Exactly. So signed on the top. Dan is the publisher.
Yeah. Frank
Miller is the president and editor-in-chief. And then Selene Thomas is Coup.
Oh.
Or the COO.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Sleepy says, I don't understand having multiple covers and then putting them into my short box. Yeah, exactly. I guess with Jared's museum printer top. Yeah. If you're going to have multiple covers, you should be able to look at them. If you're going to buy a cover just for looking at it, may as well look at it.
So the book is in black and white.
Let's see what it looks like.
Sure. Here's some artwork.
Ah, okay. That's nice.
There's the
Philip Tan
credits.
is drawing this one. John Workman lettering. All right.
So the slick cover.
Yeah, I can see the gloss on that. That's
Yeah,
glossy.
and it has a good thickness to it too, which you get really, shines when the damage is there.
You got to really, I mean, to damage that book, you got to really, hit the corner hard in order.
That's what I think happened because even the backing board is damaged, and I didn't notice it because again everything was kind of covered. It took. I really should have paid more attention. This is my fault for not paying attention, but
No,
it
you
is
don't.
damaged.
You don't expect them to sell you a book like that.
No,
My
not at
comic
all.
shop would return that book damaged. They wouldn't put that out on the shelf, especially with the corners hidden.
Yeah, and that was the thing. The corners were hidden, and I wasn't paying attention. And again, beautiful cover by Philip
Yeah,
Tang.
when you buy a bagged and boarded autographed book with a certificate of authenticity, you don't expect it to be damaged under all that.
Mm-hmm. So I can't. I don't know if it's any good. I haven't read it, and they had 3 books from this new Frank Miller universe. I don't recall the other 2 titles, and I don't see, because it doesn't even have it in the indicia, what the cover price is. There is no cover price on it.
That's weird.
So I don't know if this was crowdfunded when they first started it or what have you, but I couldn't tell you what a Frank Miller comic book should cost. And this one with a signature, because I didn't find any without a signature.
Yeah.
They were all bagged and board from the 3 books. But that's why I bought it, was to give the Frank Miller story a try. I could care less if it was signed.
Right.
I have
I'm
books
not an
signed.
autograph guy either.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I do have autographs.
Me
I've
too.
collected them over the years only because they were easy to get at one point and they were free.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yes, I stood online for like an hour and a half to get Frank Miller's autograph once. But I had bought the book already, and the signature was free at the time. And it's hard for me to pay. It's hard for me to wrap around the concept of paying for a signature, and that's only because when I started, signatures were always free. It was kind of like the way it was in bookstores. That if you bought the book,
I've just never been that interested in signed stuff. So that's like, often if someone offers to sign something, I'll say sure. But I've never stood in line to get anything signed. I've never done it, just because I'm just not a signature guy. That's all it comes down
right.
to. Mm-hmm.
And then that's basically the books that I bought was basically to I got Action Comics because I wanted to check in on Superman. It's been a while. I kind of wanted to see what he was doing. Spider-Man I've been trying to collect again. The Ninja Turtles IDW Ninja Turtles Mighty Morph Power Ranger team up was for the fact of I like team ups. I like crossovers. I wanted to give that a try just to see what they were doing. And yeah, so that was my shopping for a purpose. When it's usually I'll just wander into a comic book shop and just pick up things at random that I like. And no action figures today. I didn't pick up any figures today.
Paulo, what's the alternate cover scene in Portugal like? Is there any? Because they don't have individual comics. Do they have like alternate covers on albums?
No, they're one of the comics that my LCS put out had a variant cover for one of the albums. I think they printed 100 of those, and they were sold exclusively in the presentation at the Fnac Mega Store.
Oh, okay. So they were using an alternate cover for promotion for their own store. That's interesting. But I like that. I imagine since you don't really have monthly issues there, that there wouldn't be alternate covers.
No, but nobody does alternate covers for anything. When they print when they reprint albums a few years after the original print run's gone,
Mm-hmm.
They sometimes they do a new cover. But what they usually do is they integrate the old cover into a new design, and it kind of looks newish.
Yeah. Okay. That's
So
interesting. Speaking of expensive comics, a new Bad Idea comic this week. Burning Man #1. And this is kind of interesting. First of all, I like the cover. It's well done. Who's it by? But it's funny how I can put these together and not read them.
does it have cheap drugs and promiscuous sex?
No, I don't think it does. But it's got
It should. It's called Burning Man.
but it's got the devil. And I guess there would be some promiscuous sex in it, but it didn't. I don't think it drew it in this. They sometimes have nudity.
No, but
in their
if it's called Burning Man, it should have cheap drugs and promiscuous sex.
But Peter Milligan and Juan Jose Rip do and Andrew Dahlhaus on the color, Dave Sharp on the letters. And there was an interesting story in that page 1. There's this guy on fire who just shows up in the middle of the city on fire. And they didn't expect him to live, but he lived. And then they give you his story as it goes on. But at the end, and I even put this in here, but I didn't read it. There's going to be a Burning Man #2 where it concludes. But this explains how it's also going to be. There's 2 more parts of it that you can kind of read in any order. And it's this strange storytelling thing they're trying, where at the end, he can either go to heaven or hell at the end of the first issue. And depending on if you want him to go to heaven or if you want him to go to hell, you read the backup in whatever. Let's see, it's going to be the backup in. Somewhere in here it tells the 2 issues it's going to be the backup in. Save Now #2, and They're All Terrible #3. And then you can come back and read Burning Man #2, or you can skip those 2 backup stories that continue the story, or you can read one of them, read Burning Man #10. They're like you're supposed to be able to read it in any order you want, and the story continues. So I'll have to see how that works out, but. I really enjoyed this issue. Like I said, the story is. I generally like Peter Milligan and Juan Jose Rip, so it's not odd that I liked this, but it's like a $10 comic, I think. First, yeah, 10. It's like whoo. It's about 40 pages, I think this one is. So that's double a Marvel or DC comic, but still $10 for a comic is not cheap. But I liked it.
It's over 3 spawns.
Yeah, it's over 3 spawns. But good story. I don't think it's a devil. He might be a demon. Shows up. He tries to get out of hell by tricking the demon with some 3-card. No, tricking who's the boatman on the river Styx? Charon or something.
Charon.
Something like that.
Huron.
He tries to trick him with 3-card Monty into bringing him back out of hell. It didn't go too well. I do like it 3 spawns worth, but that's not too high a bar. But yes, it was 3 spawns. Powell needs his drugs and sex immediately. Which would take more than 3 spawns to put together a good story. Better than 3 spawns, yes. I would say so. I would probably say it was 4 spawns worth, Better than 3 spawns. So that was the one bad idea that came out this week. That was nice. Let's see. Oh, this was the weirdest thing of the week. Plush #2. This book is trippy. It's hard to describe because it's about killer furries. Furries are people who dress up in costumes, in fur-covered costumes, fur and felt covered. And in our first issue, we were introduced to the lead character, who's this sort of sad sack guy, who was engaged to the sheriff's daughter, but the sheriff's daughter fooled around on him with one of the deputies. And so now he's breaking up with the sheriff's daughter, but his sheriff's daughter doesn't want to break up with him. So the sheriff was making him not break up with his daughter. And it's sad. Meanwhile, his buddy invites him to this furry convention. So he goes, and he ends up at this furry convention seeing these other furries cannibalizing of somebody. And it was just like, what? So then it ends with him in jail because for whatever reason, the sheriff father-in-law. So this whole issue takes place with him in jail and these cannibal furries, who I think have some sort of supernatural power, come in and like eat the deputies. They're like breaking him out of jail by eating the deputies. And the reason that they're doing that is because one of the furries, this girl, thought they had a moment. So she thought she and the sad sack guy looked at each other and had a romantic moment. So she's kind of interested in him. So the other furry, there's like 3 of these like supernatural killer furries. Are like, well, you can come out of jail with us, or not, whatever you want. Now keep in mind, if you come with us, you might just get eaten.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I guess I'll come along. That is nuts. I enjoyed it thoroughly. The story is nuts.
That's an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah. Jared Osborne says, this is a 4-spawn book. Well worth the investment. But yeah, this one was just nuts. I enjoyed it. I was just like, whoa, what's going on in this crazy book? By the same, and the last series these two guys did, Doug Wagner and Daniel Hilliard, was one called Vinyl. That was their first work I saw of theirs, which was about a cult versus a gang of serial killers with a retired FBI agent in the middle.
Mm-hmm. So we had Vinyl, we have Plush. What's the next comic? Corduroy?
Yeah.
Oh, and latest issue of Cerebus in Hell.
I almost picked that one up.
Well, I'm glad
because of the cover.
I'm glad you didn't.
It's not worth 4 spawns.
It is, and this one is an annual, so it's $8 and it's double sized. I don't even know if it was worth 1 spawn. And what's funny is the issue before this, which was just called Batvark, which was actually, rather than the comic strip format, was a comic book format, was one of the best issues. This issue was just, I don't even know what was going on in it. So sometimes, like I said, I like Dave Sims' sense of humor a lot of times, but sometimes I'm just like, what are you doing? And this whole issue was, because like I said, the title is Cerebus in Hell, so most of it is Cerebus. At the end of Cerebus in issue 300, he died, and the point of this is he died and went to hell, and now there's all these comic strip jokes going on in hell with Cerebus. This whole issue was dead Cerebus. That's dead Cerebus on the bottom of a panel, like watching this movie of what's going on in hell. And it was just like, what? And he's trying to make jokes. I don't know. He had a running gag where he kept mentioning, where he kept mentioning the virgin rapist gag. Now, nowhere in here does he explain what that is that I noticed. I mean, I could have missed it because I was skipping a lot of stuff trying to read it was, like I said, this was an unreadable issue of Cerebus in Hell. You occasionally get ones like that, but this one was like, oh man, what is he doing? Is he Satan perfected his rapist virgin timing centuries before the Crusades were a thing. What? This whole issue was just totally baffling. The cover's cool.
That's what it is. I saw the cover and I was like, oh. That was my reaction.
Yeah,
And I
this is
saw the
what
cover,
Avengers annual 10 Rogue cover parody. First Rogue,
something like that. Yeah. So when I
something like
first
that.
saw it, it was like what attracted me was the trade dress. It's like that looks
Yeah.
cool. I like that. Then I got closer, realized what it was, and it's like, I'm not going to pick it up. I know Jared's going to have it, and he's going to talk about it. I'll end up watching that.
And then in the back after that they have this. I think it's a parody of the Tiger King. Is that the name of
Okay.
that Netflix show that got really popular a couple of years ago?
Yes, they had a show like that. I never watched it, but I know of it because of how many people talked about it.
Cerebus the Big Pussy King. And there weren't really any jokes besides that. His little balloons where he's like, Cerebus still can't believe that Tiger King was the most normal part of 2020. According to Cerebus's dictionary, is an informal term for a cat, which I guess is put. At least there was only one balloon, so it was much more readable than whatever this was supposed to be. But he always publishes the print run, and each individual issue is numbered. This has the lowest print run of any of the Cerebuses. This is copy 977 out of 1209. I guess nobody wanted an $8 Cerebus in half, because that's about half the normal print run.
Right.
I guess nobody liked this cover parody at $8, but me,
Giant size aardvark Vanaheim 3-winded long wheeler.
Yep, giant size Aardvark Vanheim 3-wheeler long-winded title logo annual. Oh, and then this. What was this? I don't know what the hell this was. I forgot about that. Let me flip back. He's got this Black Widow parody. Defoe True Black Widow, where the joke is she's actually black, but then he's got her speaking like Amos and Andy.
Oh.
I'm like, what? He's doing these ebonics. If in my id and your id had a big fight, you hear what I be saying? Whose id would you supposing would win? I'm like, really?
Okay, here's what you answer Dave Sim in this situation. That be whack dog, you be tripping.
I mean, Dave Sim writing ebonics parody? Really?
I don't get it. I'm glad I didn't pick it up.
This issue is off the deep end, and I don't know. Even it's just like I don't know what he was thinking. And after the last issue of Batbark being so good, I was like, "Wow, this is this one right here, the Berserker, the Keanu Reeves Berserker parody. That issue was really good. It was done like a comic book rather than this issue was. I don't know, it's going to get him arrested or something. It's so bad." They did plastic a few years ago. I've heard about that's the vinyl guys. The guy Vinyl and Plush did one called Plastic. I've heard of that one since buying vinyl, but I haven't seen it. Sim's sense of humor was better 40 years ago. Some of it is, like I said, some issues I generally like and are funny. Some are not. Especially when he gets in, like, I hate to call it conservative humor because sometimes, like this issue is sometimes not even humor in that. Well, it's hard to tell if it's conservative humor or hell humor because this all does take place in hell, so everybody's messed up. But to me, like one of the weird qualities of conservative humor, and I put it in quotes, is sometimes they think people just trying to do something good is funny. And it's like there's no joke. It's just that in their whatever conservative mindset they got, somebody trying to make the world a better place is just funny to them. And, but there's no joke there. They don't make a joke out of it. That's sort of the punchline. Look, that person's trying to do something good. And it's like, huh? That's not a joke. Conservative humor is based on kicking orphans. Yeah. There's some of that going on in this issue but it just might be evil because they're in hell. It's like it might not actually be conservative humor in this. It might be evil humor about evil people because they're in hell, but there's still no joke. I mean, you might find somebody, because somebody living in hell, the devil and demons, to think someone trying to do something good for the world is funny. But you still got to make a joke with it. And that's when Dave Sim fails me. When he just thinks something's funny on its surface and he doesn't make a joke out of it. When he makes a joke out of things, he can actually be funny. So it's a little weird. So like I said, you got to be, if you're buying Cerebus in Hell, you got to be prepared for a lot of unevenness. I can see why people don't want to buy it. And I think he put a phone book edition together of it too. I can't even imagine how it would read in that one big chunk. How could you get through it?
Right.
It's better in small doses. Mm-hmm. And I got one more toy. Let's see. The hardcover Strange Death's been put out last year is the last money I give him, and I feel a bit weird supporting him. See, I feel a bit weird supporting him, but I made the decision that I'm not going to not support people because of their religion, because then I couldn't support anyone. Yeah. Everybody's religion is crazy. Almost everybody, in the Western world who's a monotheist, their religion tells them they should kill me. Because I'm not I'm like, you know what? I certainly don't agree with a lot of the crazy things he said, but if I had to delve into the religious background of everybody whose stuff I buy and who I know, I don't want to open that door, because most of the religions say to kill me. And they're not editing it out. Even if they don't believe it and choose not even to pay attention to that part of the religion, it's still there. And when things get bad, I'm the type of people they kill. So I'm kind of like, is Sim's based? Oh yeah, Sim became a religious guy. That's what his craziness is based on. And he not only became a religious guy, he kind of cherry picked from Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So at one point he started reading all the holy books, and that's when he got nutty and started writing editorials about the nutty things. When Cerebus was still going, that's all real. That's why it's hard for me to get mad at Dave Sim without getting mad at everybody, because he would actually even say, "Hey, this is in the holy books. What are you getting mad at me for?" So it's kind of, but I can understand people saying no thank you to him. I can 100% understand it. When Thor comes down on his burning chariot of goats, he will have something to say about me, bud. He will. But I've got my Asgardian hair, so I'll blend right in.
You'll go grab your hammer from the toolbox?
Thou shalt kill Jared. Ebonics in the holy book. He even keeps a Sabbath. So I think it's Sundays is his Sabbath. He got that from like the Muslim end of it, where he'll do no anything on Sundays. I think it is. So it's it's all religious. His conservatism that he has, his point of view. But like I said, I actually do feel guilty sometimes buying Dave Sims' crazy work. But then I'm like, you know what? I can't keep track of everyone's crazy religion. I'll never leave the house.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, there were times where I did a bunch of YouTube shows because people invited me to use them. To go onto the shows. It was like, oh, you want
So
me on the show? Yeah, fine.
yeah,
I'll go on. But it got to the point where it's like I'm not going to sit there and watch every one of their shows to see if they might have said something off the wall at some point because
right,
I was just happy to be asked to go.
right.
And what I found where I only stopped taking invites was when they would be a grid of more than 5 people.
Oh, okay.
And I end up just standing there smiling because I'm enjoying being a part of it, but too many things are going on at the same
Yeah,
time. And I don't know how many we've had here. The most might have been 4 or 5, but I can't.
maybe even 6 at one point. I don't know, but it's rare.
Right. And I didn't mind that
Right,
because it was just, we were having our discussions and stuff like
right.
that. But I find if there's more than 5 people, I don't know what to focus on.
Especially if they're strangers who we've never talked to before.
Right, exactly. So there's that type of thing where it's like just so much going on. And am I to vet every person who's on that show? Because everyone has their own personal agenda of why they're on
Yeah.
any particular show. But again, it was one of those things where it's like there's just too many people, and it's just too hard to concentrate on any one thing. So and this is early YouTube for me, where it's like I did a show, and it's like, why were you on that show? Because I was invited. But don't you know that person also interviews these types of people? It's like, no, because I didn't watch every one of his shows, and again, he's hosting a show about comics. Of course, I'm going to go. I know that person for over 40 years. He invited me to his show. I'm going to be on his show. But I had strangers contact me on Facebook, and not even contact me directly. Contacted a friend who I happened to mention because I knew that person. Like, did you know Wilson's dropping your name on this particular show?
Wow, that must have been the height of that Comic Gate stuff that was going on.
It was around that time, and
Yeah.
it's like, but why? So it's like, why did you do this show? Because I was invited by a friend of mine who I've known for 40 years. Why'd you say this person's name? Because I knew him for 30 years, and I happened to mention him. But the person who was all up in arms that I was on the show, I never personally ever spoken to. We were friends on Facebook because everybody's
Right.
friends on Facebook, but we never actually had more than I wouldn't even say a 10-minute conversation, other than, they liked my comment at one point. I may have told them happy birthday at another point,
Right.
and that's it. You know how
Right.
Facebook works.
They're
Facebook
acquaintances.
Facebook didn't tell me it was your birthday. I would not have said happy birthday on that day. So I kind of mentioned, I don't even know who this person is because I don't know them.
Right.
I know of them. They exist online, but it's like I can't vet everybody.
Yeah.
And to me, my take on it being invited to a show, it's like, yeah, I'll be happy to go on. But at the same time, I cannot, as you mentioned before, I cannot look up everybody's religion. I cannot look up their show. watch everything to try to find, because there are people who will watch every single episode to find something to criticize on it, or it's like, or find a Twitter from like 12 years ago when they might have said something off the cuff, and it's like 10 years ago. I don't even know what I said on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And to me, it got nutty to the point where it was like, I just can't deal with that type of stuff, because one,
Right.
I didn't understand why this person was upset, and
You didn't know
two,
what was going on.
I didn't know what was going on. And to this day, I really don't understand Comic-Gate as a whole, because if I said anything, I know either side was going to give me hate anyway,
Right.
because I didn't understand it. And to this day, I still don't understand it, because there are people saying, well, you should read all his tweets to understand it. I don't have time for that. And it's not even I don't have time for that. I don't care.
Yeah.
I can't care. I'm too busy not working on my own books to be worried about people fighting over their own books. So to me, it was like I kind of abandoned that, and I just walked away from it all, because it's like I can't deal with this. I don't want to pick sides, because the side that attacked me more, are they supposed to be the good guys? Because that's what I was getting a lot of. It's like I just on YouTube or Instagram and all that, I never see the actual problem. I hear about everyone's reaction to the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where it's like, did you hear about what this person said? No. Well, you have to. It's like, no, I don't, because I didn't care in the first place. So it gets nutty altogether. I don't know where I was going with that rant. I just kept going, but
One
that's the thing.
of my favorite comments from that era was from Howard Chaykin, and I think it was in the cartoonist kayfabe interview with him, and Howard Chaykin got in something America comic, I can't remember what it was, but he got in trouble for one of the covers he did on there from people on the left. They didn't like it. The cover like depicted like an anti-Muslim incident, but it was supposed to be bad. I mean, that was the whole point, was the people who were doing this were bad. They were the villains. But people on the left got upset with him, yelled at him, got him in trouble, whatever, tried to get him in trouble. And Howard Chaykin was, I think he was on Cartoonist Kayfabe, and they were asking about the incident. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what the hell that was. Like, we had to take down the cover and do something else. What a pain in the ass. And he's like, but the weirdest thing was all these right-wing people came out of the woodwork to try and get me on their side. He's like, I'm a freaking New York liberal my whole freaking life. You think some people yelling at me are gonna make me change? It was just like so funny. He was like, really? You're then gonna stop being a New York liberal that I've been for 60 something years because someone yelled at me? It was cool.
Well, so much for that. It's our show now, Pablo.
Excellent. Let's talk about dolphins.
Well, I wanted to raise them to be part of the military, but apparently there are laws against that.
Once again, I want to put up Scott's comment and got kicked off. There are a lot of fash comic channels. See, I don't know that slang. I don't know what fash is. It says fascist. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of dolphins, I had to read Rip and Slab.
Oh, okay. Let's see what you got.
We haven't had one in
a
while.
We haven't done one in a while. I still have some in the folder. So
I just looked that one. And and characters that people don't remember were created by Marvel, and all of these issues happen to be number 3s.
Wow.
Okay.
Buck Duck, Little Aspirin, Powerhouse Pepper. I think I've heard of Powerhouse Pepper.
Yeah, it was by Basil Wolverton.
Ah.
Little Aspirin was Marvel's copy of Ernie Bushmiller's Nancy.
Oh, yeah.
And Buck Duck was one of their attempts at doing a duck cartoon character.
Ooh, those are three. Man, all 3 of those covers are good.
They're really good. Have not heard of any of these, and I've looked up a lot of their animal cartoony stuff, and always finding something new.
I must have seen Powerhouse Pepper in a Basil Wolverton compilation.
Yeah, Powerhouse Pepper started out in what was one of the as a backup in one of the female characters' titles. Can't remember which one.
That's
I think
very
it was Tessie the Typist.
That's very. I've never noticed an E.C. Seeger influence in Basil Wolverton until that cover. Let's see. Scott says,
but you can see where Robert Crumb got his influences from.
Yeah, Reed Pepper, Slab Buck, Rip Little. Okay. Slab Power, Rip Little, Reed Buck. Okay.
Oh, nobody likes Little Aspirin. They had their own version. So this is their version of Nancy. They had their own version of Little Lulu. They had their own version of Little Dot. I mean, it was Martin Goodman. Hey, this Little Dot is selling well. Let's copy Little Dot.
I would want to read them all just because of how weird they look. Artwork's beautiful, but I don't get to do that. Okay, so I would read Buck Duck. I would slab Powerhouse Pepper, and I would rip Little Aspirin.
The third person to rip Little Aspirin.
Would rip Little Aspirin. Only because to me it's just so blatantly a rip off.
See, I think I'm going to slab Little Aspirin.
Okay.
And read Powerhouse Pepper, which means I have to rip Buck Duck. Which gives me pause because I like that cover and logo just because it rhymes with fuck so well.
And it's a great looking logo too.
Yeah, you can make a dirty version of that real easy. But I that Little Aspirin cover I think will look good slabbed. So would Powerhouse Pepper, but I want to read some Basil Wolverton. So that's the one I most want to read of the 4 of them, of the 3 of them. I can count.
Let me check something here because I forgot who worked on what. Okay, so it's Little Aspirin. Little Aspirin's author was somebody called Horace T. Elmo.
Never heard of him. Horace D. Elmo.
Horace T. Elmo. These were published in 1949.
Wow. A lot of those Golden Age people never worked again after the 40s. As they said in the, what is that book? All of a sudden I can't remember the name of the book. Something with Scare in it, the comic book Scare. Oh, man. It'll come to me. 10-Cent Plague, that's it. Which is the history of the in the United States of the backlash against comic books.
And Buck Duck started in 1950. Actually, there was one story published around 1943, but then they only started doing Buck Duck again in 1950, and then it was canceled, and then it was brought back in 1953. And this series is from that 1953 version. Art was by a longtime Marvel Timely staffer called Ed Winiarski.
Okay.
And it does a good Disney style. It's not just the fact that it's a duck. Even the way the characters move and their facial expressions, they're very Disney.
That's a nice cover.
It's a
Who did
very
the
nice
little
cover.
aspirin cover?
Horace T. Elmo.
Oh, okay.
And there were all those youngish characters that they put out, Little Aspirin, Little Lenny. They all appeared in each other's books.
Ah.
They had backup stories. Although Little Lenny appeared in a little, I think that kid, the other kid may be Little Lenny himself because he appeared in Little Aspirin stories. But I've never actually read them, so I don't know exactly how they relate. But I've seen in the Great Comics database that Little Lenny appears in Little Aspirin stories, not just in the titles backups.
Scott just bought a Powerhouse Pepper hardcover used for $15. Wow.
Nice.
How about Ziggy Pig and Silly Seal?
Yeah, Ziggy Pig and Silly Seal. That was published in around 1943, 1945.
Were they timely ones too?
I've
Yeah.
seen Ziggy Pig covers.
Yeah, and they were created by that guy who was 100 years old.
Ah.
Uh,
Stanley? He just turned
no, Al Jaffe.
Ah. What about Poison Ivy by Gil Fox? Those 2 original pages I had.
Then I don't know.
I have 2 Golden Age pages of a character named Poison Ivy, drawn by Gil Fox.
Oh wow! Okay.
Who was kind of, I found him on eBay years ago for not very much money.
Ranger Sly was with me on the Fossils this Wednesday. Last week, instead of showing comics, I showed a French series of illustrated books for kids called Martine. They're very famous in Europe. And because Ranger Sly is from Quebec, and those books were French, he had a few that he had gotten, and he showed them.
For some reason, as soon as you said French, I thought you were going to say something like, instead of comics, I showed a French film of a cigarette burning on a rock for 15 minutes.
No, those books were they're actually recommended for kids, not like these ones. Yeah, but Ziggy Pig and Silly Seal appeared in they debuted in 1942 in Crazy Comics. Then they moved to their own title and still appeared in a few anthologies. When I'm doing all these databases for myself, I'm trying to track the movements of some of these characters, and they are all over the place. I mean, at DC, you knew that Superman appears in his own title, in Action Comics, and in World's Finest. At Marvel, they would put, hey, we have a leftover Captain America story, let's put it in, instead of putting it in USA Comics, let's put it in Mystic Comics or something. Just because.
Just put it anywhere.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to show Wilson about this Burning Man too. I have never seen, or I haven't seen in a while, a comic slide so much on the printer. There's a couple pages where it's like a lot of the comics, there's like a white line along the edge because the page shifted so much. It went past the bleed even.
Wow.
And there's one page here. It's like nobody's going to notice this stuff but Wilson and I. This page slid so much that you probably can't. Up here, whoops. There, you can see there's like a little dot of magenta, of cyan, of yellow. It's where they sample the colors on the side of a printed page. The slid so much in the printer and trimmer that you can see the little dots where it's supposed to give you the sample of what it is. I'm like, holy cow. And then there's one where's this? I think it was the last page. This one right here. You can see how that's cut off right there?
Yeah.
That's the copy line. If you look over here, see that dark line in the middle? That's past the bleed. There's like
Wow.
it slid so far that it got that's past that's like the opposite page on the signature. I was just like, I've never seen a comic slide so far. That is just weird. And then hold on, let me show you another production error. Another comic I got this week. The last issue of Manifest Destiny, issue 48. This I think issue 48. I think this one started 10 years ago. I've enjoyed it by Chris Dingus, Matthew Roberts, Owen Gienny, Pat Brousseau is the letterer. But on the good, this is the one that's about the Lewis and Clark expedition, except there's demons and magical stuff going on as they go across the country. But just as the story is reaching an emotional impact at the end, I get, let's see if we can see this big blob of gray ink over the whole thing. Let's see where.
Oh wow.
It's over here. See this big blob of gray ink? I was like, what?
I haven't seen that in a comic in years.
Neither have I. I'm like, what
Years since I've
happened
seen it.
there? What happened there? That looks just like a printer thing. There was some ink on the roller or something.
Yeah. That's what it looks like to me. It's like
And it's blue, I think. It's the blue plate, something smeared on. I'll have to see if I can get a good copy of it because they don't have any shelf copies of that.
right.
Mm-hmm. Hold on a second. I'm going to get a rip, read, and slab going just because I have a few here still. Well, here we go. April 1978. Where is... Man, I haven't done this in so long, I can't remember where share screen is. Did they move it? Invite? Present. That's what it's called. Present. Share screen. Share screen. There you go. April 1978. I was 11 and 12 years old. I think I only bought one of these comics. Can you guess which one?
Godzilla?
Godzilla is correct.
So I'm going to read Machine Man and slap Godzilla and rip Brave and the Bold.
Rip Brave and the Bold. The DC gets the tear.
Yes.
Batman and Aquaman. Who wants to see them team up?
Yeah. Yeah, they don't even have a dolphin there.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to put the dolphin with Godzilla.
Ah, in space? Dolphin
Exactly.
and Godzilla in space.
I owned Godzilla already.
Read Machine Man, rip Batman, slab Godzilla. Same as Paolo. Yeah. Worn grit wheels on the print machine? Could be. I bought only Godzilla back then too. Got into Machine Man later. Yeah, I don't even know if I've read that entire Machine Man series. Sometimes I like to leave some Kirby unread, just so in the future I'll have some new Kirby to read.
I have a trade paperback with all the stories.
Yeah, I don't think I have that one. But Godzilla I bought, but I was always disappointed in because I wasn't a huge Godzilla fan to begin with. But I was always disappointed that the superheroes were so ineffective against Godzilla.
Yeah, only Dum Dum Dugan could stop Godzilla.
That was just weird.
But not even Dum Dum Dugan could save the comic from cancellation.
Nope.
Not at all.
It was okay. I like bought it, but it was never a favorite. And I think it was all Herb Trimpe art, which I wasn't a huge fan of Herb
It
Trimpe.
was all Herb Trimpe artwork. My love for Godzilla makes me upset reviewing the Godzilla comic book because it was an interesting adaptation, but they only licensed Godzilla, none of the other Toho monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't use the other Toho monsters because
Yeah.
the price you paid for Godzilla to license it is the same price you would pay for each individual monster. And they did not want to pay that much money because they were paying $2
Yeah.
already for Godzilla. But they also did, and the same creative team also did Shogun Warriors.
Oh
And
yes, I
never
remember
and never a crossover between the two.
that.
And as a kid, being so actually more of an adult being disappointed because these books were already canceled by the
God,
time I
we-
got to collect,
Uh,
knowing that the possibility because the Shogun Warriors toy line had Godzilla in it, and it was the same creative team. They would have known how to draw each other. Okay, I would slab Godzilla because I already have the issue, so I
because
don't
he's a
need to read it
Godzilla
again.
fan.
And I'm a Godzilla fan. Now, would I read? I think I may actually read Brave and the Bold. Just because I know I would never buy that myself.
Yeah,
And
that is true.
Machine Man unfortunately would have to get trashed. Get ripped up. Which
Those
would make all the other issues of Machine Man that more valuable. So I'm doing it a service by getting rid of one more from it. And as far as dolphins are concerned, I would almost want to replace Machine Man with a Kirby version of a Machine Man dolphin. A machine dolphin. The living what would we call the dolphin? The living porpoise. That's where I would go with that.
I think I'm gonna slab Machine Man. I'm gonna tear up Godzilla just out of spite because it disappointed me as a child.
Ha!
Which means I'm gonna I'm gonna slab Batman because why not slab the Batman? Then I can read Machine Man and rip up Godzilla. Even though if I were to slab that Batman, it wouldn't look good. It wouldn't look good hanging up anywhere. Because it's not my favorite Batman cover. I would put I'm not quite sure what's going on that Batman cover, but wherever those circles are coming from, I'm going to make it so they're coming from the dolphin. Like it's his dolphin scream.
Yeah, that's post number 100, Brave and the Bold. By that time, it just this was DC's version of Marvel Team Up, but without the personality.
It had Jim Aparo art, which was good. I mean, most in general, Brave and the Bold did. I don't know if he did this particular issue, but the Jim Aparo art was what made me like the Brave and the Bold. Most of the stories were not that great. Raid in Your Sly is a full run of Machine Man, both Kirby and Ditko issues. I do not. I never got those. Does Machine Man trade include the 2001 stories?
No, the trade is for the Kirby and Ditko stories. It does include the Hulk stories that finish up the Kirby run on which Kirby did not work.
Right.
But serve as a launching point for the Ditko stories. The Machine Man 2020 series from 1984 is printed in the Iron Man 2020 trade paperback. And the X50, I don't think the X51 series from 2001 was ever reprinted.
Ranger Sly has a full run of all the Marvel Kirby series from the 70s. I don't think I have a full run of all of them. I've got a lot of them, but not all of them. I love seeing Godzilla in the Marvel U, says Sleepy Reader. Dolphin Bot 3000. Yeah, Beam and Rays. That's Machine Man. Read Batman, slab Machine Man, rip Godzilla. I think you're on the same page as me, Tid Coplin. Sexy time with Aquaman and Batman. Yeah, 70. That's right in my prime. That's right in Jared's golden age, being 11
If
and
you
12 years old.
if you put a dolphin in that Brave and the Bold cover, Lobo will show up and kill Batman and Aquaman because you've endangered the dolphin.
Oh, I got one more toy. I bought this one myself just because I saw him for cheap.
Ooh, Grifter! I love Grifter.
I saw. You know what? I love the mask more. I love that Grifter mask with his the little cape that hangs down over his face and flops around. So I saw this. It was like, I don't know, $10 on Amazon. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a Grifter figure to go. Now, who would win in a fight, Grifter or Despair? I don't know. But what's weird? What's weird about Grifter? He didn't come with guns. He came with a knife and a sword.
McFarlane Toys?
Diamond Select, maybe?
Because there was this thing that came out, again, from toy collectors, that
Let me see. I have the box.
DC toys were not shipping with guns, although they have gun hands. McFarlane later put out a set of weapons that could fit into their hands, but not part of the DC line. That looks like a McFarlane box.
DC Multiverse?
No, that's the thing.
Oh,
is
McFarlane Toys. It's gone up here.
Yep.
Oh, so McFarlane is doing the DC
It's
toys
doing
now.
the DC line. They're 7-inch figures instead of the 6-inch figures. The Marvel Legends are 6-inch figures, so they're an inch bigger than the older DC line.
Oh, so he's got a good inch on Despair. He's gonna kick his ass.
Of course he is.
But he has no guns. He can't shoot him. I would have taken Despair out at that moment.
I didn't.
As soon as you overcome your despair, despair is actually pretty easy to to beat up. I mean,
like if you're in Spider-Man and you go absolutely berserk on him. But it's like I didn't even bother to take the knives out of the package because they just end up nowhere.
And they also come with a collector card as well.
Yeah. For an extra dimensional demon, despair is nothing to write home about.
Collector's card, and they comes with a stand too, but I didn't feel like opening that up. Boom! He'll fall down.
That's what the stand's for.
Yeah, I was like, Grifter's kind of cool. He looks cool. Does this coat come off or is it stuck on? No, it's stuck on. His plastic coat. But I'll go with. There was one time for about like 3 years in a row I bought one action figure a year, like around 2010 to 2013. That's the last time I got anything. I got a Ditko Iron Man. I got a Cyborg. And who's the other one I got? I don't even remember. Oh, I think I bought a Hawk Girl, but she fell and her head broke off. So I threw her out. I couldn't fix her like I fixed this.
That's why you're weary about taking heads off.
Yeah. Dropped in her. This is an old. I don't know when I got this. An old school beast, but he broke. And I had to put a nut and bolt through his hips. I had to drill a hole, and I was like, "Oh, I can fix him." So I drilled a hole in there and put a nut and bolt to hold his legs on. Otherwise, his legs will fall right off.
Yeah, it's whatever can work. You know, you make it work. I've recently got a couple of these washers, mainly to fix some of the old Mego action figures that I have, where the rubber band, those rubber bands are over 50 years old as it is, and but you could only buy these things in bulk.
Oh wow!
So they're O-rings,
Right.
So I can use them to fix and it's the largest one. To fix the Amigo Spider-Man that I have and Amigo Hulk that I have. And it's like, oh, I could fix GI Joes too if I needed to.
I could not fix Hawk Girl's head. That
Yeah,
snapped right
that's a
off.
tough one. It depends where it snapped, how it snapped. I watch a lot of YouTube videos on people taking apart toys just to see, because some of
Mhm.
them are easy to take apart. Because
Right.
with Marvel Legends, you just apply a little heat, and they become a little bit rubbery, and it's easier to snap pieces off. But other action figures, if they're older, are made from like a brittle plastic, so that may
Mhm.
not work. Um, I watched this YouTube channel called Toy Poloi, and he talks about how to fix older action figures,
Right.
GI Joes or some of those Mattel Batmans, because their little bat wings on their heads will pop off sometimes, and
Mhm.
it's fascinating one to watch someone creating something,
Right.
working on their craft, but also ideas you would never think of to use
Yeah.
to fix. So he uses a lot of Lego pieces to fix Star Wars toys.
Oh,
And that
okay.
blows my mind because of the creativity of being able to, you take one thing that it wasn't made for that and just modify it, and next thing you know, you have a arm fixed. And I think that's actually pretty cool to be able to like fix an old toy that you have. I have watched a ton of his videos, and it's like these are
Wow.
great ideas for something that I would have never thought of.
Yeah. I kept headless Hawk Girl around for a little while, but it got a little too creepy. I was like, you know what? I can throw this toy out.
You could just had her standing there holding it, and it would have been great Halloween decoration.
Headless Hawk Girl. Oh, here's a Christmas comic that was pretty good. Impossible Jones in Naughty or Nice. I bought an Impossible Jones mini series um, last year, maybe. And
Uh-huh.
I saw this was coming out. And I was like, do I want another Impossible Jones mini series? But then it was just a one shot. So I was like, all right, it's a one shot. I'll get it. And this was really, first of all, it's one of those. It's like a superhero story, but sort of a fun Michael Allred type of superhero story. It's by Carl Kessel is the script and inks, and David Hahn does the pencils. And it's funny because I was thinking she's kind of a Plastic Man-ish character in that she can stretch and do. She can actually stretch more limbs too. Like she got another limb coming out her side. She figured out she could do.
Oh, okay.
And but she's trying to sort of decide if she's a superhero because she was the thief, and now she's got superpowers. So the rest of the superhero community assumes she's a superhero. She's kind of like, well, am I really a superhero? I got to make some money here. So she's kind of conflicted of whether she's a superhero or not. And then she's fighting. And then so she's like teaming up with other people. Like, what's this guy's name? Well, there's Captain Lightning, and they're fighting. What's this? Christmas. There's this one supervillain who's got a Christmas theme, so she can only do stuff at Christmas. They even mentioned it here. They're like, yeah, that kind of Holly Days. That's her name. Polecat is this other guy who's a superhero. So she's talking with these guys, teaming up, fighting. Who's this guy? He comes up with fun super villains. Demolition, the guy with the antimatter touch. So he touches things and they blow up, and it's really nicely drawn and sort of that very clean, pretty, Michael Allred type style, but not really, Allred draws it, but well, and they've got this. There's a backup story with this guy's pretty interesting. He's obviously based on Mr. A and the Question. He's called Even Steven. And he's a hero who's always he wants to defeat evil in a fair fight. So that his power is he no matter what the villain's power is, he automatically adapts to it to have an even type power. Like in the beginning, he was fighting this guy who's like a giant man, so he became giant himself. And he won't fight if it's not an Eve. It's like, she's like, we have to go across town and help Impossible Jones, and he's like, no, I can't do that. It's even. The fight's even now. I can't interfere. It was very like Mr. A-ish, but well done. Nice visual too with this black and white suit. But I think I enjoyed this issue more than I enjoyed the miniseries, and I liked the miniseries. But this was a good done in one. And like I said, Scout Comics. What's the price on this? Teen? $4.99. I think most Scout Comics are $4.99 now. So you're not getting any $3.99 Scout Comics anymore.
I can't remember the last time I got a Christmas issue.
Yeah.
Marvel used to put out holiday specials every year. Occasionally there'll be a book that had a Christmas theme to it within the comic books. But for the life of me, I don't recall when was the last time I bought a holiday book. Maybe The Long Halloween was like the last time I bought a book that was related to a kind of a theme for the holidays.
Now, Archie puts out a lot of Halloween books that I've gotten over the last couple of years. So I have a few Halloween ones. Rights problems with the 2001 issues. Huh?
Yeah,
I can't play that game.
The monolith appears in all the stories, so they can't use that. If they could avoid using the cover because it says 2001, they probably would. But since elements from the Arthur C. Clarke stories appear in the comic story, they can't use them.
Paolo, are we gonna have to explain to Ranger Sly how we're not actually slabbing or ripping comics?
No comics have been harmed, slapped, or destroyed in the making of this video.
Or even read. This is just a game thought experiment.
Obviously, if Ranger Sly hasn't noticed, a lot of people have said that over the time we've been doing this game. Like, no, I can't do it. I can't. And Paolo's always like, you're not ripping anything. It's just a game.
Mm-hmm.
But if we did have the power, we would put the dolphins on the covers.
Yes, that's the power we'd want first, to put the dolphins.
We want to be able to retroactively be able to sneak in the dolphins onto the covers.
It's not a theory, it's a game. It's an emotionally difficult game, Ranger Sly. Yeah, that's the fun of it. That's the fun of it. Indeed. I had a huge size G.I. Joe toys when I was 6. Yeah, I had the big ones when I was a kid. I actually just bought and ripped the Aquaman Batman.
And how many spawns did it cost you?
Here, this is going to cost me a few spawns. Here, I picked up this week, Lazarus Volume 7. This is one where in the first Lazarus series, I bought and really liked. Then they switched over. They said, we're going on hiatus and we come back. We're going to be doing quarterly square-bound issues. And I just don't like square-bound comics that much. I'm like, well, if they're going to, for like $8 an issue or something. I'm like, well, if they're going to do that, I may as well wait for the trade paperback. Which, of course, meant that I'd never buy the trade paperback. Because I just don't pay attention to trade paperbacks. But I read Volume 6 on Hoopla, and I was like, wow, I really like this. I want to get back into some Lazarus. And they had this one on their shelf. I'm like, I may as well buy. It's only, I think, $17. Yeah, $16.99, $17. So it's not even an expensive trade. So I picked it up. I got it home. And, yes?
Just saying hello.
Just saying hello. Hello. It's my mother. She's making a special guest appearance.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Mrs. O.
So what was my bill for 8 comics, which includes this $8 Cerebus in Hell and this $10 Burning Man Bad Idea comic, was $40. And I was like, I got home and I was like, how could I have $18 worth of comics plus 6 more and a trade and it be $40? That doesn't make sense. And I realized they never rang up Lazarus.
Oh
Oops.
wow.
I'm going to bring it back next week and have them ring it up. I'm like, I brought the money to pay for it. I'm perfectly willing to pay for it. Only 2 spawns on that Scout comic. Yeah. That's a spawn in 2/3 or something. But yeah, I haven't read volume 7 yet. But this is a really good series if you've never read it. It's all about politics in a. See, I don't know when we were discussing post-apocalyptic comics with Howler Mouse. I don't know if this would count as post-apocalyptic or dystopian. It just might have been a long, slow slide into dystopia. And he's got source books describing the long, slow slide that are so boring. Oh my God. Holy cow. Because they're not comics, they're source books.
Right.
And I bought a couple of them and I never made it. I mean, they're just like dense text about the history and present of the Lazarus world. It's like, whoa, too much for me. But yeah, good book. Now I have to pay for it.
Yeah, because it sounds to me like he's giving you homework to do. If you
some
don't get
people
that
like
information.
backstory.
Yeah.
Some people like backstory. Some people like source books. I'm just not one of them. Slab Wilson, read Paolo, and hug Mrs. Osborne. Special guest appearance. They're going back to Florida tomorrow, so I'll say goodbye. My parents were both up for Christmas.
Oh, that's nice.
They live in Florida.
Were they stuck there because of the weather? Oh.
No, this is when they planned to go back. So
okay, how did that turn out over there?
What was that?
Well, how did all the weather situation turn out over there?
They were okay. Nothing happened to them. They're in Orlando, in the middle of Florida. So, and here in my part of New York, we only got a little cold in this cold snap. Not like Buffalo where people died. Holy cow!
Yeah, that was insane.
It's like I can't. I had to stop reading stories about people going out for milk in the blizzard and dying. I'm like, oh.
They showed a news segment here that claimed that it hadn't snowed in Florida. It hadn't been this cold in Florida since for 50 years. But I know that's not true because I wrote about testing in Daytona, and it was snowing.
It was my mother had just said the last time it was this cold in Florida was when they first moved to Florida, which was like 1988 or 89. I forget which. That was the last time it was as cold as it was. So it's been a while. It has been a while. Damn Them All is another comic I got this week. Really enjoyed it. If you remember me talking about, what is it? This is issue 3, issue 2 that I fell asleep reading. Turns out it wasn't because of the comic. It was because I was really tired. Because I read issue 2 again and liked it. And I was like, oh, it wasn't the comic. It was me. So I read this issue, wide awake and enjoyed it. I love the Charlie Adler art. He's just kicking ass on this book. It is really, really nice. And it's the story of... imagine if John Constantine had a niece who also wanted to get into magic. And so that was like our introductory first issue. But at the end of the first issue, the John Constantine character died. And she thought he just died from whatever. No one killed him because he's impossible to freaking kill. But then someone he knew in New Orleans, the sheriff, came over and was like, no, he was killed by someone. She said, what are you talking about? No one could kill him. He was freaking impossible to kill. He just died. And one of the conceits of this story is that magic is really hard, in that there's a price to pay for doing magic, and it's a high price, and it's really hard, and it takes sacrifice, and there's spells and stuff. And as her uncle explained to him, the spells really don't have to be followed word for word and letter for letter. They just have to be hard. That's the point of the spell. It's like you don't really need Eye of Newt. Some substitute will do, but it has to be hard. Like at one point, part of the spell in the first issue needed like a part of a lion, but instead they were using a dead alley cat. And he's like, it doesn't really have to be a lion. It just has to be really hard to get and really disgusting and really hard on you to get it. So it was hard on her to find some dead cat in an alley and cut it apart and use its entrails for a spell. So that was interesting. But then, like, the whole point is that magic is really hard. But the point of the story is something happened and had something to do with the John Constantine character's death that made magic really easy. So now people are running around like magic people with these coins where trapped in the coin is a demon that will do their bidding, where they just have to say, listen, I want you to kill that guy over there. And the demon goes over there and kills him. And so that's the story now. Magic has become really, really easy, and it's just messed up the balance of power in the underworld that uses magic. So it's been fun so far. And like I said, Charlie Adler is just killing it on the art. The storytelling is terrific. Mm-hmm.
That does sound interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun. It's developed into a very nice book. I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
Want to make a new list?
A new list. Write down book.
And they go, why did I write this list?
Damn them all. What does that mean?
That just might be me writing that.
Oh, here's one book I cannot find for any reasonable price. And it's not one you'd ever think. Delphine #4.
Delphine.
Delphine, it's a got in the aughts. Fantagraphics put out this series of books called Ignatz Books or something like that. That it was the name for the format. There were sort of these oversized, printed on really nice paper. And I think there was different things printed on that. But one of the ones I got was Delphine by Richard Sala. Well, he's since died, too, Richard Sala. He died a few years ago. And I got the first two and never saw 3 or 4. I guess I didn't put it on my pull list. I might have just been picking it up off the shelf or something. But I never got 3 and 4. They're like 15 years old now. And I eventually, since 2017, I found 3 on eBay. But anytime I find 4, it's like $100. It's one of those there are certain indie comics on eBay that people want to be worth money, but no one ever buys them. Like, no one's buying Delphine #4 for $100. Just not gonna happen. Anyone who's a Richard Sala Delphine fan is not the kind of person who'd pay $100 for a comic. So it's like Palookaville #1 was one of those, which I finally found a reasonably priced copy for. Like Palookaville #1, the first Seth. No one cares about Palookaville #1. I'm a Palookaville fan. I still need #1. I got #1. I still need #2 to complete my collection. But I don't care if I never get Palookaville #2. Just don't care. It's not even very good. Seth even says, those first 3 issues of Palookaville were the worst ones. It was before I really knew what I was doing and got into his story. Because they're just little vignette stories rather than something like Clyde Fans or It's a Good Life, rather than his graphic novel stuff. So it's like, it just always like Delphine #4. I really don't care if I never get it. I mean, I'd like to get it, but I'm not paying $100 for it. If I pay $10 or $15 for it, sure. But it's like one of those books.
Fantagraphics put out a hardcover in 2012.
They put it. That's out of print now too, and also the hardcover is small.
Mm.
The
I'll be right back, guys.
The original Ignatz ones are tall. They're like They're like around Treasury edition size, maybe a little smaller. So, and they're on really nice paper. So that's the only reason when the hardcover was in print, I never got it, just because I wanted the original issues, kind of thing.
And it was published in Italy by Cococino Press.
Ah.
Want to buy the Italian version? Yeah, you'll find you can join the ranks of the foreign edition collectors.
Yeah.
You'll be the only American with the Italian version of Delphine.
Delphine. I'm practically the only American with the English version.
Mm.
Like I said, it's not a book anyone even knows exists. You've got to be like a Richard Sala fan.
Mm.
And even then, it wasn't easy to get the original issues in those Ignatz formats. But the format's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And here, I even put down Birthright 1 to 4, the individual issues, because I started with issue 5 and bought the trade of 1 to 4. So I was like, I should get the original issues for 1 to 4. If they fall in front of me for a couple bucks, maybe, but to hunt them down. And there's another one I really like the cover of. Wonder Woman 108. It's I have like a printout of the cover in a bag and board, so it looks like I have the comic. But I think it was like a Ross Andrew and Mike Esposito cover. And it's just sort of like this graphic designy Wonder Woman up against a wall kind of cover that is an atypical Wonder Woman cover, but I always liked that one. I'll never spend $100 to get the comic, but it's on my list from 2017. Grifter is gonna get you with his non-guns. Blam, blam, blam. So is McFarlane Toys not put guns in anything these days, or
I don't know.
where's Wilson?
I do find it odd that they would do
Yeah,
that.
I found that strange.
I mean, everybody knows that McFarlane Toys are for adults.
Yeah. Does McFarlane Toys not put guns in anything these days, Wilson? Or
I believe it's only on the
DC?
DC ones.
Oh, okay.
And this is something that happened fairly recently. I don't know. I wouldn't know if DC said we don't want guns. I don't know where it came from. Stuff I've only like heard on YouTube. So I am not sure exactly why not. I know the Batman that I have, I think, comes with his batarangs, but Batman never had a gun anyway. So I only have a handful of the McFarlane Toys, and those characters don't have guns anyway.
Oh, okay.
So
it might be a DC thing, not a McFarlane.
It could very well be a DC thing because McFarlane has put out gun packs where you could buy guns and they happen to fit in those characters' hands. So I don't know if it's some sort of licensing type of thing.
Right. Jared, is your Love and Rockets collection original off the shelves? If so, no interest in the new collection? I sold my off the shelves Love and Rocket collection, which I only started buying years after Love and... I actually prefer Love and Rockets in the collected editions because the comics are really not designed to be read. I mean, I buy the individual issues, so I don't want you to think I don't like them, but they're not even like broken up into chapters a lot of times the Love and Rocket stories and the individual issues just stop. It's not even like, it's just like, here's 20 pages of a 100-page story. It just stops. So I'm not like particularly enamored with the original issues of Love and Rockets. I much prefer the giant collections. Like I have back there, Locos 1 and 2, which is all the Jaime stuff. The Luba stuff I have in 3. I took the giant Luba volume out of the library and really liked it, but I never bought it because it's undersized. And I ended up, for even cheaper, getting some magazine-sized trade paperbacks of the whole Luba story by Beto. So I have no interest in the new collection, only because I think I prefer rereading Love and Rockets altogether. Like, I don't want to read part of issue 16, part of issue 17, part of issue 18. I find it easier just to go to the collections and read the collections. That's all it is. I mean, if somebody gave it to me, I wouldn't turn it down. Hey guys, I need to finish getting Birthright trades. I do have 1 to 5. That's good stuff, Birthright. Like I said, Birthright really stuck the landing, and it especially did, because Birthright is all build up to this big magic war. And even after the big magic war ended, they had this like 4-issue story arc that was an epilogue almost, that really wrapped up the series nicely. And I have to say that it was one of the best epilogue like story arcs I've ever read. Not that I've read a lot, because stories usually just end. But I really, really enjoyed the end of Birthright. It was just, a very satisfying type ending, showing us all these characters I'd been reading about for years and what happened, kind of them settling down after the big magic war ended. So that was pretty cool. You need to send them love checks and they send you the guns. How to get your guns from Todd McFarlane? My sister would not buy gun toys for her kids. Yeah, I don't necessarily blame her. I've heard that before. Gun toys, depending on the kid, around here they won't get you into much trouble because I'm in the suburbs, but there are places they can get you in trouble.
Oh yeah, they definitely can. There's I did a quick Google search and it looks like it's not necessarily DC. It's actually Warner Brothers as a whole is the one saying they don't want guns. That's what I could see doing a quick search. That
Okay,
it's Warner Brothers policy about the
right.
guns, But everyone's getting swords by the looks of it.
Yeah, Drifter's
Because
got
the
sword.
the
That's not a
Peacemakers,
toy.
That
Peacemakers, huh?
that always reminded me of Richard Carlin's routine when he goes, Did you hear? They're banning toy guns, but they're keeping the fucking real ones."
Uh-huh.
Good old George Carlin. He had a way with words, didn't he?
He definitely did.
You got to ban the toy guns because if you find yourself in a gunfight, you want to be able to shoot back. So there's no sense in having a toy one.
Uh-huh. Well, a good toy gun could be stopped by a bad toy gun,
I just noticed Grifter has some pretty good wrist action here to be able to fire guns too. He can immediately go into gun holding mode. You don't often see, well, I don't. Maybe you do. I haven't seen a lot of toys in a while that have the wrists can move all around. It's like a ball joint.
They can.
Yeah, I haven't seen.
Many of the Hasbro ones do have.
Most of my toys were bought in the 90s. So.
Right. So those were just usually the 90s toys were just basically arm right to hand, and that's it. If you're lucky, maybe you get a turn, but it really depends on the figure and the year.
90s discount bin toys, so they weren't the top of the line either.
Yep. KB Toys 3 for $10 is how I got most of my action figures.
Yep.
And most of the Marvel ones.
Playing cowboys with calf guns was such a big part of my early childhood. Oh yeah, I had plenty of calf guns.
Oh yeah. Cap guns, or just that cap technology, the little rockets that you would toss up and it would slam down on the caps. I had one of those.
Rather than the paper caps, I always liked the plastic ring caps.
The 6-shooter looking ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Those were unique, and they had their own smell. That whole gunpowder smell to them.
Oh, I just remembered running a rock across. I'd forgotten about that. The paper caps.
Right.
You unroll a string of them and take like a sharp rock, and zip it across the whole line of them, and they like flame up.
Yep.
I
Do that, or
completely
just
forgot
slam
about
each
that.
individual one too.
Yeah. It's like, do they still have those paper caps? I haven't seen those in years.
I haven't seen them in years, but I don't think they're completely gone.
Yeah, you can probably make meth out of them or something, so they had to get rid of
Who knows? Yeah.
them. Despair. I think I might have some Swamp Thing toys out in the garage from the 90s. I can have him as a stand-in for Man-Thing.
There you go.
Well, instead of burning at Man-Thing's touch, Despair can eat tubers from Swamp Thing.
Go on a trip. By the way, that is still one of my favorite like taglines from any book. Whatever knows fear burns at the Man-Thing's touch. That's just a great tagline that sets things on fire, sets people on fire. Always fun.
Oh yeah. That's up there with Giant Size Man-Thing.
Just found out the 3 for $10 KB toy price was printed to look like it was handwritten. I did not know that. Is KB Toys still around, or did that one close?
No, that's long
gone.
Yep.
KB Toys is gone. Toys R Us is gone.
Toys R Us is gone. It has made a bit of a comeback in name only. So if you go to Macy's, they have a section fully licensed called Toys R Us, and there is a functioning Toys R Us store in Canada, and I want to say they may have recently opened up one in Jersey, but I'm not positive on that one.
It's like the TV show I've been watching on Netflix about the last blockbuster.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a TV show. Let's see, any more comments? Oh, this was actually... I read this just before our show. Creep Show issue number 4. This is probably the best issue of Creep Show of this Creep. There's only going to be 5 of them, but I like that Chris Burnham cover.
I saw one today, and it had Spawn on the cover.
Oh, that's because, speaking of alternate comics that'll make you go broke, this month is like, or this next 2 months, whatever it is Spawn month. So there's going to be like, among Image Comics, there's going to be 100 alternate covers with Spawn on them. So like every Image series is doing a Spawn cover.
Okay.
That's why you saw a Spawn cover on Creep Show. And this is Image. So that's it. You saw the Spawn alternate cover. I remember thinking to myself, I was like, wow, if you wanted to, maybe it was 50 Spawn covers. Because I remember thinking to myself, if you wanted to collect all these Spawn covers, it would cost you around $200. And I was like, wow. I mean, it's fun to collect things. But, you know, when you think of it, I was like, I don't want 50 Spawn covers for $200. That's more than 50 Spawn issues.
Yeah, that definitely is. The only thing that I like about that concept is that at least every book is a different story.
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing against the concept. I'm just not collecting 50 Spawn covers.
Yeah.
We still have Toys R Us here. Oh, okay. That's up in Nova Scotia, right? St. John's you are? Is that the one that's down at the bottom of Nova Scotia? But this was really good stuff. People I'd never even heard of, too. One story was by Kyle Starks and Fran Galan. That last A has an accent over it. Then Henry Barajas. And the artist is just Danny, Dani. But we have one story about a bunch of kids running into some vampires. And then the next story is about what is that name? The Mexican wrestlers, a woman who wants her father's Mexican wrestling mask. Horror, both of these, and I like this sort of Frank Miller-ish art here that's going on by Danny, whoever that might be. But I think I liked this issue best of all the issues so far. Close Newfoundland. There we go. Everybody mixes up Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. I knew it was Newfoundland too. That's the same place GPAP is from. And he's always complaining that people mix that up, mix that up. Like, I just did it. New Scotland and Newfoundland. We get them all confused. Not New Scotland? Isn't that what Nova Scotia means?
Yeah. And it's actually part of the French-speaking territories, Nova Scotia. Or is that New Brunswick?
Newfoundland is the one with St. John's down the bottom where everybody lives, right? Is that the name of the city?
I have no idea.
I'm asking Tit Goblin. He'd know because he lives there. And I didn't get to, being that I was busy all day, I didn't get to read the latest Image anthology. Yes, in French, it's Nouvelle Escosse. I think I said it with an Italian accent.
Yeah, and they couldn't call it New Caledonia because New Caledonia is close to Papua New Guinea.
Ah, isn't that where New Ireland are?
New Ireland, the New Hebrides.
Because I actually have a book over here, The Art of New Ireland. Where is it? That's somewhere. Somewhere among my art books is a book called The Art of New Ireland. But that's how I know about New Ireland. I learned about it in an art class once.
New Ireland, next part of the New Ireland province of Papua New Guinea, lying northeast of the island of New Britain.
That is why it was named New Ireland, just for its location. They named New Britain first.
During the colonial era, it was part of German New Guinea.
Ah. They've got some very interesting art.
When it was called New Mecklenburg.
New Mecklenburg.
Which doesn't make any sense.
No respect for old Mecklenburg from Paulo. We have a St. John. They have a St. John. There's a St. John's everywhere.
Like every city has an Elm Street.
Yeah. You know what's Middletown. There's a Middletown, New York, a Middletown, Connecticut, a Middletown, New Jersey, a Middletown Township, New Jersey. What's that all about? Mm-hmm. Probably you can find a Middletown in every state.
Yeah, I found out that there's
with naming stuff.
Yeah, I found out through Wikipedia that there's Lisbon in Connecticut, a Lisbon in Florida, a Lisbon in Illinois.
Wow.
There are 2 Lisbons in Maine and 2 Lisbons in New Hampshire. And then there's New Lisbon. There's a New Lisbon in New York and a New Lisbon in New Jersey.
In the USA. And another one.
And there's a Lisbon in Ohio and a New Lisbon in Ohio.
Which was first?
So let's see where New Lisbon is in New York. New Lisbon is a town in Otsego County, and it is north of the city of Oneonta.
Swigo?
Otsego.
They call Oswego Swigo up there. I knew some people from there. They dropped the O.
Mm-hmm. and then sometimes First Street would be renamed to Main Street
Ah.
as they got more streets and they started the numbering system. First would magically disappear and become Main Street.
There's a New York in New York. Crazy.
No, the funny thing is that there was a separatist movement to turn New York City into its own state.
Yep.
And then there would be a state of New York. If that happened, there would be a state of New York and a state of New York City.
Yeah.
And New York would not be in New York.
Yeah. That's how they got New York to ratify the Constitution too.
Mm-hmm.
New York City threatened to secede from New York State if New York State didn't ratify the Constitution way back when. They went, all right, all right.
Yeah.
Is that a... Oh, yeah, that's a Sean Phillips cover. I didn't even realize. Painted of Brubaker and Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
They must have a story in here. Let's see.
Sean Phillips tried to take work away from Glenn Fabry.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got a Christmas themed criminal story in here. That's gonna be good. Though my favorite part so far has been the one page of Dean Haspiel that ends each issue. Because I have to say, this has not been the greatest anthology comic ever. Too much of it was just, a regular story broken up into parts with, and too much of it has just been like a showcase for some other story. But it hasn't been terrible or anything. And I do like anthologies. And I do get a page of Dean Haspiel at the end as a sort of a palate cleanser.
Now, since I
Anthologies
brought
are
up...
weird.
No, they're not.
No. I mean, only weird in the sense of once you put the name anthology to a project, it almost seems like it wants to kill the project.
I think that's also because so many people don't like anthologies.
Yeah.
In terms of when they buy a comic, they want to like the whole comic. They don't want to like one story and not the next. Which I understand, but I'm okay with that. I like anthologies because I like discovering things.
Right.
I like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Well, most people don't.
Well, since I've always read Marvel and DC as anthologies, in Marvel in particular, there's always been a certain house style. Even when they had different art styles, there was a certain way of writing the story,
right?
That was easy for the translator to work with, because the translator, one thing the translators did was make sure that everybody spoke the same way. It didn't matter who had written the story originally. But you could, if I'm reading Marvel superheroes, it doesn't matter which order I read them in. Mm-hmm. The only thing that because they were all part of the Marvel universe, so they all kind of mixed together. The thing that made it weird was when they had, for example, there was that Jungle Book story in Marvel Fanfare, and they ran the first part as a filler once, and that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars and Hulk was weird, but strangely, I had no problem with Indiana Jones and Captain America.
Indiana Jones, the comic that could have been really good. Another one, John Byrne was on for 2 issues. We were talking about his 1 issue of Spider-Man at the beginning of the show. Now we can talk about...
only on 2 issues of Indiana Jones?
Yeah, it was very short. I think it was only 2. Maybe I'm remembering, but it wasn't long.
I thought maybe he did a bunch of covers.
Probably, yeah.
I bought those books. I thought he had a run on them.
No,
But
I don't even, because I remember being, I could be wrong about the numbering, but I remember diving off of Indiana Jones fairly quickly because John Byrne left.
Yeah,
Right.
Gene Day was the main artist.
Who was?
Gene Day
Gene Day.
for
And I was
quite
a
a
Gene
while.
Day fan, and I don't even remember those Gene Day issues.
And David Mazzucchelli worked on a few stories before he
Yeah.
worked on Daredevil.
Wow. Yeah, I never saw those ones either because it was like once I like the first two issues I remember being Byrne and they were really good. And the next issue may have even been someone like John Buscema, not even someone terrible, but it just didn't have that John Byrne excitement to it.
and was
George
Walt
Lucas
on it?
objected to the Byrne stories. Wow. At
He was
Indiana
writing them.
Jones. I didn't know that. Because they
He
were really
wasn't-
good.
He wasn't writing them; he was just drawing them. I think who was writing them? Michelini.
I don't remember. It's been so long since I've seen them. Since the
Yeah.
80s, probably since they came out.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's probably the last time I looked at them as well. And I almost want to say Walt Simonson may have done something with.
I think somebody mentioned that
Indiana
last
Jones.
time I talked about these. So, but I missed those issues too because I was gone because the issues after Byrne were rather lackluster. So I was like, yeah, don't need to buy this.
but Walt was on Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started buying Star Wars for the first time in my comic buying history because Walt was doing them. Because I had no interest in the Carmen Infantino Star Wars. Because in his story, Byrne had Indiana let the villain, a woman, fall to her death. Lucas was not happy. Oh, okay.
That's the type of thing that the comics code would object to. I guess they were okay with this.
They probably took out some decapitations in order to keep that in there.
Hey, we didn't show the neck.
There was no eyeballs getting stabbed, so it was okay. It could pass the code.
There's another one that's on here. Shade the Changing Man, numbers 1 through 8. The only reason I put that on there was because I had just read them for the first. I'd never read the Ditko Shade the Changing Mans before 2017 or so, but I had the collected edition in one of the Ditko things and read it and really liked it. His Shade the Changing Man is good, so I was like, oh, maybe I'll get the original issues someday.
Yeah, I
haven't.
only ever remember the Vertical. I think they did a line with Shade the Changing Man.
Mm-hmm.
I remember those issues, but I don't remember the Ditko era ones.
They're actually they're pretty good. I enjoyed them thoroughly when I read them in 2016 or 2017. They're like I said, I was surprised because a lot of I think that was before Ditko lost his enthusiasm for superhero mainstream comics, because like Ditko stuff from the 80s is just, you could tell he wasn't into it.
Mm-hmm.
All the artists loved working with him and inking over his stuff. You could tell that. But I just don't think he was as into it anymore, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that time John Byrne inked Ditko. That was such a weird story. Strangely, P. Craig Russell worked very well over Ditko.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shade was maybe the best Ditko work at DC. Yeah, I got to agree with you there. I'd say one of my favorite Ditko things was still from my childhood. Was still the first issue special he did of the Creeper. Because like when I was a kid, that probably came out when I probably got that when I was 10 or so. Loved his Stalker. Yeah, Stalker wasn't bad. Inked by Wally was Stalker, but the Shade was better than Stalker, I think. But like I can remember being a kid, 10, must have been 10, 12 years old. I don't know when it was. But I was, like I said, I was really into the history of comics, like the Steranko and the Marvel Origins books, and how comics are made, kind of thing. So I was always looking for some glimpse of how comics were made in the comics themselves. And that Creeper one, there were so many parallels to other superheroes in that. Like there was a parallel to Spider-Man. There was a parallel to Superman, where he was a reporter. So as a kid, I was like, wow, this is fascinating. He's like taking pieces of other things and making it into something new. So that's one of the reasons I really loved that particular issue of Creeper that he did, because I never saw the 60s Creepers then, but because it gave me some glimpse into the mind of somebody creating a comic. My favorite Ditko is Doctor Strange. I dig that. I especially like the first couple of issues where he's in black, kind of like before he gets the cape. I like that look a lot, and I have the Fireside book of Doctor Strange is my favorite printing of those issues. If you've never seen the Fireside book from the 70s that reprints a bunch of that Doctor Strange stuff, it sort of has the old school printing still, except on a crisp matte paper. And it just looks so good, I think. It's just the best looking of that particular stuff. You can still see the patterns the patterns of color that are used. So if you ever get a chance to look at that Fireside reprint book of the Doctor Strange stuff, give it a look. Not that I got anything against I'm okay with the 60s comics being printed on glossy paper or whatever, but I still like that version of it. Yeah. I bought the Ditko Strange Oversized. Yeah. Ditko is Strange. Oh, yeah. I haven't seen that book. But after buying this giant-sized Kirby, that put me off those big books. I got this giant-sized Kirby one, and it's 19 pounds. That is nuts. It is so difficult to look through because it's 19 pounds. Books shouldn't be 19 pounds.
Besides, we're nerds. We don't exercise. And lifting that book counts as exercise.
I almost picked up at the library one of those oversized books. It's like, oh, I would like to read this and go through it. And the moment I picked it up, it's like, I am not carrying this home with me. Just to bring it back in a couple of weeks to return it to the library. Like, well, this was an interesting idea, but I'm putting it back.
Yeah.
I'll carry
I have
it home
several, and now I need one of those monk book tables. Yeah, you need a book table to rest those giant tomes on, because they're bigger than omnibus. Omnibuses gets too big and unwieldy sometimes. Those giant-sized books are big and unwieldy.
Yeah.
And it's in a slipcover. It's like, what? A 19-pound book? Maybe it's only an 18-pound book, and the slipcover is a pound. I don't know. But...
Right. And they don't only just do the one; they'll have a series of them as well.
You can read that, or for the same weight, a bag of potatoes. Bag of potatoes only come in 5-pound bags. You need 4 bags of potatoes. That's a lot of potatoes to make that book.
Mm-hmm.
Giant.
Yeah, when I saw some of the omnibooks, they're beautiful looking. Especially if you see a shelf full of them, but the sheer amount of them being that heavy. And if you don't know anything about books, preparing it, those things can fall apart too if you just open and dive right in.
You hope it's gonna last.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a few omnibuses left, but I sold a lot of them when they went out of print and rose up in price, and I needed the money.
Right.
Because all of a sudden I could sell my omnibus I got for $75 for $150 or $200. I'm like, all right.
I only own one omnibus.
That, and I found myself never reading them.
It's a Captain America. Never opened
Right.
it. Still sealed because
That's the
won it.
problem.
I won it in a raffle.
Ah.
In some sort. I think I was at a comic book show, and there was a raffle going on, so I signed on for it because
Mhm.
I wanted the Amazing Spider-Man one, and then I ended up winning the Captain America one. It's like, okay, this is cool, but I don't think I'm ever going to open it up and read it, just
Nah.
because
Which
just
volume
big.
is it?
it is. Give me a second.
Yeah, because I used to have a couple of I think I still have one Captain America, but I used to have a couple of them, and like because also from like 2008 to 2012 when I was buying a lot of collected editions rather than individual comics because there was nothing individual that I wanted to buy, I would occasionally buy stuff like I bought the Ed Brubaker Captain America omnibus just because I wanted to read it. And I wasn't, it was something to buy. So I bought it and I ended up selling that one when it out of print for a decent price.
So here's the book.
Okay. That's the Captain America from 100 up.
Yeah, it says
probably
collecting
the Tales of Suspense stuff is in there too, right?
collecting Tales of Suspense 59 through 99, and then Captain America 100 to 113. So this is when Tales of Suspense changed its name to Captain America.
I have.
Although I don't know if it has the secondary story,
Yeah.
which would be Iron Man.
Turns out that's the same volume I have.
Oh, is it?
I used to have the Mad Bomb volume, but I sold that one too. This one didn't go out of print, so it wasn't worth as much.
And I don't recognize that signature, so I'm not too sure who did the cover to this.
This is something I picked up at Marvel many years ago. It's a hardcover version of Captain America, the Mad Bomb in German. And this was like the only version of Captain America Mad Bomb in hardcover for years. Even in trade, it wasn't in for years. Oh, I still have the German version of it. See, when was this? 2004. Oh, and it was signed in there was only 599 of them. This one doesn't have a number though. Must have been a proof they sent into Marvel that someone got rid of.
Oh, okay.
See who published this one? Para Comics, Parah, is that? I can't tell.
I don't recognize that name. I thought it would have been a
Yeah, it's hard
Panini.
to. It's done in ink, in silver ink, so it's tough to. Oh no, it's Panini.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I
in
thought.
2004.
That says Panini, huh? Yeah, I guess the ink is all smeared and it's too small to read, but in the indicia it says Panini. All right. This must be when did Marvel own Panini then? Still, I don't know.
No, Panini after the
Bankruptcy.
The bankruptcy, Panini got the rights to distribute Marvel outside North America for
Okay.
quite a number of years.
Because I think I remember during Marvel bought. I remember when Marvel went on their spending spree.
Mm-hmm.
And bought like Fleer, Skybox, all that stuff for hundreds of $1 million that was way overpriced. The only thing that was making money was Panini and Panini stickers. So I think that's the first that was one of the first things they sold off in bankruptcy because they could get money for it. They couldn't get money for the stuff that wasn't making money. But I still remember that. Someone tell me that Panini's the only thing making money for Marvel of it. All that stuff they bought.
I did a few sticker collections when I was a kid.
Yeah. Kids buy stickers.
Oh, yeah.
Not anymore.
All right. So it's time to wrap it up for the week.
But we never had laminated cards to collect. It was always those sticker collections.
Yeah. No, no baseball cards for you?
No, but we had bubblegum cards.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody have a good new year out there.
Take care,
That's right.
everybody.
See you
Huh?
next year.
We
See you
will
next
see
year.
you next year. Bye-bye.